Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ. Those cardiac cats with another chance to clinch the postseason in the final week of the regular season. But instead, it was the Bengals once again missing out on another playoff run. The season marked by another slow start and so many roster issues, whether it was injuries or not being able to come to terms on deals. The front office hoping to keep the band together, but they're going to have to find a way to pay all of their players. Of course, Jamarr Chase, Tee Higgins, just two of the things they're going to have to tackle this season. Now, if you remember in 2024, they became the first team in history with passing yards, receiving yards, and sack leaders in those categories. It was the most points per game in terms of their losses, and they also won their final 5 games after a 4-8 start. So there seems like they're right there, gentlemen, but something is missing. As we welcome you back here into our CBS Sports HQ studios, Haley Sutton alongside Jacqueline D'Agostino, and we've got our NFL crew, Danny Kanell and Leger Douzable. Guys, we're playing construction today, so everyone's going to put their hard hats on. We've got our toolkits out and open because we've got to fix this Bengals squad. Man, Leger, it just seems like each and every year over the last 3 years or so, this has been the story when it comes to the Bengals. So let's fix it, right? Where do we start?
The funny thing is, right, the old cliche saying defense wins championships, and people weren't believing that, but I think the Bengals showed you truly defenses win championships because you stated it, Haley, they had the #1 passer in the NFL, the #1 reception and receiving leader in the NFL who won the Triple Crown, and they also had a guy that led in sacks, and yet they didn't make the playoffs. So they got to get some more pieces on the defensive side, but first and foremost, they got some business with Tee Higgins to do, right? I know everybody would like to see him back in the Bengals uniform, but I think the best thing for the Bengals is to franchise tag him and trade him to get some draft capital back to help out that defense. Then you have to pay Jamarr Chase, which you should have done last offseason. Now that price has only gotten higher, right? He's probably eyeing that $35 million a year from Justin Jefferson, and rightfully so. Again, this was the Triple Crown winner from last year, so you have to pay Jamarr Chase. You have foundational pieces. You don't let them walk out the building. And then we talked about it on defense. They have to find a frontline starter at corner and a defensive tackle, either via draft or free agency. Jahdae Barron from Texas makes a lot of sense. He's a guy that can play in the slot and at the corner on the outside. And Kenneth Grant, this defense was abysmal against the run. He's going to help them from day one against the run. If they go free agency-wise, Rasul Douglas makes a lot of sense because he's a zone-type corner. Al Golden is the new defensive coordinator who came over from Notre Dame. He plays a lot of zone coverage, so Rasul Douglas makes a lot of sense. And Osa Odighizuwa, which I know you don't want to hear, Haley.
I'm cutting you off because you skipped ahead to our third step. You're giving away the segment, Leger.
Makes a lot of sense.
Tee Higgins, we're going to go back.
Let's go back. I do, so
not allow that on my set.
I agree with you to a point on the defense. I do think Joe Burrow, and clearly we talked about the season that he had. It was an MVP caliber season, and he didn't even make the playoffs. And you don't want to waste Joe Burrow's prime years, which really he's coming into. You're already ahead of the game. The fact that he started his career so hot, they've already been in a Super Bowl. But you do want to make sure that now is the time you make your run. And I do think part of that, we popped up his record with and without Tee Higgins. It does help to have two. It even goes back to the national championship he won at LSU. He did have Jamarr Chase and Justin Jefferson. Here, I think you should at least explore every option possible, but I agree with you. I don't know if you're going to be able to keep both Tee Higgins and Jamarr Chase happy. And if you had to force me to choose one, I would go with Jamarr Chase, much like you.
Yeah, but this is my only thing. They had that last year, and they still didn't make the playoffs because they put so much money allocated to the offensive side. It really hurt the defensive side, right? They ended up having to fire their defensive coordinator because a lot of their draft picks didn't work out. Guys they took in the first round along the defensive line really haven't panned out. So if I'm the Bengals, yes, I would love to have Tee Higgins and also have Jamarr Chase. But another guy that played really well for them, Mike Gesicki, is going to be a free agent. So maybe if you franchise tag Tee Higgins and then trade him, you could keep Mike Gesicki because he's proven if he's in the right offense, he could be a guy that could be essentially a #2 receiver for you.
Yeah, let's circle back to Jamarr Chase because obviously you guys both talked about it. If you had to pick one, whether it's Jamarr or Tee Higgins, of course the obvious choice is Jamarr Chase.
Sorry, T.
Certainly would help to have both. But let's talk more about the money here, gentlemen, because Justin Jefferson, as you alluded to, resetting that market, and we see it at all these position groups, right? With the quarterbacks, it's like the next guy to get paid is always the highest paid player at the position. What kind of money do you think we're talking about, Leger?
$35.5 million is where the conversation starts. Because you see it right there. Justin Jefferson's making 35. You talked about it, Jack. Most people, the next guy wants to be the highest paid, and rightfully so. Again, this was a guy that won the Triple Crown the first time since 2021 when Cooper Kupp won it. So he bet on himself, took out the insurance, DK, because the Bengals didn't want to pay him last offseason. I liken the Bengals and the Brown family kind of like to the Jones family, right? Like, we have frontline foundational pieces, but we're going to wait to the last minute to pay him, and now we're up against it. Now we might lose Tee Higgins because we didn't pay Jamarr Chase.
That's not a great analogy.
I was going to say, you're trying to add a
I'm just being honest. Like,
I was going to say, I thought you meant the Bengals and Browns were cheap. That's where I was going. And
well, that's what I'm saying. Well, I mean, he waited to pay Dak.
Yes.
He waited to pay CeeDee Lamb, and what happened to that team? The roster, they weren't able to put
and you're
adequate
trying
pieces.
to take away one of our best pieces, Leger.
Y'all don't have money to pay nobody right now.
True.
So, I mean, like, the thing is, if you're an owner, like, and you have a frontline foundational piece, you can't wait to pay them.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times these players are betting on themselves, and they're winning the bet, right? We saw it last year with Dak Prescott. We saw it with CeeDee Lamb, and now we're seeing it with Jamarr Chase. His number is only going to get higher.
Agreed. Jamarr Chase is gonna get what he's looking for. He'll be the new highest average annual value. It's just sometimes the devil's in the details as far as the length and the fully guaranteed portion, but he's gonna get paid either way.
Yeah, it certainly feels like it wasn't that long ago when we were talking about this with Tyreek Hill setting the market at 30, and now we're talking about 35.5. There's
Crazy.
a lot of money going around. Oso Odigizua is staying a Dallas Cowboy. We gotta take a quick break.